Hey everybody, today we're going to take a look at Foundry Virtual Tabletop. Now, the first thing you should know is that Foundry VTT is Patreon software, so if you want to use it, you're going to have to go to patreon.com/FoundryVTT and subscribe to them. You only need to subscribe for 1 month. You won't get updates, obviously, after that first month, but the software is actually releasing May 22nd with a one-time fee of $50 for a license, and only really the game master, I guess any of the players, needs to pay that once, and then everybody should be able to connect to it at once for that one-time fee. Now I'm going to assume that you've already backed on Patreon and you're ready to go, so we'll go to their Patreon page, come down to My Membership, scroll down to this Hello New Patron post, click Show More, and get to the Download Links and Getting Started section. That'll take you to the latest update post where you can get a download link. I'm on Windows, so I'll download that, but you can do the same thing with Linux and Mac OS, and it should be basically the same after we get through the installation process. Now that that has finished downloading, I'm going to open it up. On Windows, you'll get this Windows protected your PC message because it's an unknown publisher, but this is safe software. We're going to go ahead and click Run anyway after hitting More Info. That'll prompt you with another UAC prompt for your password, and it'll black out my Streamlabs OBS setup. But once everything is back, I can bring the Foundry VTT setup window over, hit I agree. I'm going to install it in the default location. We'll hit install. Now, one thing to note is that this software works with D&D 5th edition, but it's not designed specifically for it. You can use it with Pathfinder, with Shadowrun, with the Star Wars tabletop role-playing game, or a whole bunch of other systems that we'll take a look at in a minute. But now that this is finished installing, I'm going to leave Run Foundry VTT checked, hit Finish, and then wait for the window to pop up. And that's over here. So I'll bring this back in, and this is the Foundry Virtual Tabletop main window that you'll see when you open the program. We've got our game worlds over here, an option to create world, game systems, add-on modules, and configuration. Now, before we go any further, I'm actually going to say, let's go in and set an administrator access key. And the reason behind that is that we don't want anybody to be able to open this up and make changes to our world without our consent, basically. And there's also some bugs with adding images if you don't have an admin access key, where you run into a little bit of problems. So we're going to head those off right now. So we're going to hit Save Changes. It'll give you this notification that it will close Foundry, and that's okay. We'll just reopen it right afterwards, and we'll get this administrator access screen now. So we'll log in with our administrator access key and look into starting to create a new game world, which we can't do just yet because we don't have a game system. Now, like I said, this works with a bunch of different game systems. And to make it work with D&D 5th edition, we're going to go to foundryvtt.com. We'll just hit Modules and Systems. That'll bring us to this page where we can see it's 13th Age, Pathfinder 1, 2nd edition, Fate, Starfinder, a whole bunch of other things. And then we'll come over here, right-click on Manifest URL, click Copy Link URL, come back to Foundry, hit Install System, paste it right there, and hit Install, and it will download the latest version, get everything installed and ready for us. This sets things like movement distance, vision, and a whole bunch of other things that make your game world work. And now that that's installed, you can always come over here and check for updates afterwards and see if there's anything new, if it's been a month or two since you got everything set up. But we're going to go to configuration to check one other thing. The rest of these settings are mostly set up to control how your players are able to connect to your game, whether you're hosting it locally or you're hosting it online, which we'll get into much later. We're just going to try to get everything up and working and understand how the software works before we start worrying about people connecting to it. But one important thing to take note of is this user data path, which will be different if you're on Linux or if you're on Mac OS, but the basic process should be the same, which is that the user data path is where it's going to store your worlds, where it's going to store your system information and your module information. And modules are basically just additional bits of software plugins that you can use that will change things, like it'll make it so you can request roles from your players for specific things, change how rolling works, add weather effects to your map, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff that we'll also get into later. So I'm actually going to copy this user data path and open a Explorer window and connect to it. So we can see that we've got config data logs. All of the important stuff for us is going to be in this data section. I'm just going to leave it here for right now. And we're going to come back to the game world screen and hit create world. We can name our world whatever we want, use spaces and everything like that. But for the data path, this is something that will come up in your URL structure. So I would recommend making it something that's friendly to URLs. That means probably do lowercase and use hyphens or dashes instead of spaces. So we'll do demo world. You can also just do it with no dashes and just keep the words together. But I like having the dashes. I think it's cleaner to read. Then we can select our game system, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. This is not changeable after you have created the world. So make sure that it's what you want it to be. Now, background image. This is what wouldn't have worked if we hadn't already entered an administrator access key. This button would do nothing, but you can see now when we click it, we get access to, hey, module systems worlds. And it's the same thing that's in our data folder. So that's where everything is stored. Now, in my downloads, I have already downloaded a background picture. So I'm going to come in, grab forest background, and paste it in here. And I will close it, reopen it, and you'll see that it will find it now. And you can create folders here if you want to have a different structure, but we'll hit forest background, select file. There is not an upload option right now, but hopefully that's something that'll be added before too long. We'll hit select file. It'll pull in our background image. We can set when the next session is. This doesn't control anything. It's just useful information for your players to be like, oh, we're going to get together in a week and a half. That's when schedules line up. And then we can do demo world description just to see what it looks like. Now you can add a whole bunch of other things in here. You can change paragraphs. You can add headings, other blocks, block quotes, alignments, lists, both unordered and ordered, images, tables, horizontal lines. You can clear formatting, and you can actually go to a code view where you can look at everything and make more specific changes. Probably use inline styles or something if you wanted to, but that's getting into the web dev part of this a little bit too much. You can either hit save here or create world. We're going to hit create world, and you can always get back here and edit anything other than the game system that you might want to. And you'll see that we still have over here path, and it leads us to data worlds, demo world. So if we come back to our data folder, click into world, we see we've got demo world here and everything set up. So we don't really need that anymore, and we're going to go in and just hit launch game. So this is showing the background image that I selected, this background forest image. We have current player 0 of 1. That 1 is because we exist as the game master. And once we get in, we can go in and set access keys for this. Don't make it any password that you use for other things because they're not stored securely. They're just kind of a little bit of extra authentication when your players are trying to log into the game. So we don't have an access key currently, so there's nothing to worry about there. We have our world name and our world description appearing over here. This will show you if you had set it, when your next session is, and also how many players are connected out of the max that you've created so far. So we're going to click join game session, and you'll see this error message about your D&D system data is too old, and they're going to try to convert it. Not something that you have to worry about. It's harmless and probably shouldn't even be there. So it's not something that you have to worry about. But now we're in the main Foundry VTT window that we're going to be working in all the upcoming videos. This was just to get the super basic parts working, and then each part will have its own video, whether that's making a map, adding players, running an encounter, and stuff like that. So feel free to skip ahead in the playlist to whatever you're specifically looking to do, but it's kind of designed to go in order if you don't have any idea how Foundry worked at all, like I didn't just a week or two ago. So be sure to check back for more help on how to run Foundry VTT, and thanks for watching.